Hi everybody and welcome. Today let's take a look at the Orb Producer Suite. It's a series of plugins to generate an infinite amount of patterns, melodies and bass lines. My name is Matthias, and if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, hit the like and press that notification bell so that you get a notice when I release new videos. Okay, let's take the tour. Right, so at the core, the Orb Producer Suite is 4 plugins for generating melodies, arpeggios, basses and chords. And while the other application called Orb Composer is a standalone application, the Orb Producer Suite is now a plugin suite. So you can basically load up these plugins in your favorite DAW, like Bitwig Studio for instance, or Logic, Studio One, Ableton, etc. So we have 4 different plugins here: the chords, bass, arpeggio and melody. And you use these in combination. They are all synced together. So in this project here I have the Orb chords on my top track. Then I have a plugin with the Orb bass. And we have the Orb arpeggios. And finally the Orb melody plugin. And while these plugins look very similar, they each have their own specific purpose. Initially you need to load up the Orb Chords plugin, because it is like the master plugin for this suite. Then the other plugins like the bass, the Orb arpeggios and Orb melody will all sync to the Orb Chords. And here you can see I just loaded up the Orb Chords. And you can see we have this Orb master section at the top here, which is the basic control section for generating the melodic ideas and the chord progressions. Then at the bottom here we have the Orb chords, and this is specific to the Orb chords plugin. You can see if I open up the Orb bass plugin, we still have this Orb master section. And this master section will be the same on each of these plugins. If I go back to the Orb chords here and add another theme to this cue, like this, and we go to the Orb bass plugin, you can see that it's added this theme number 2. So now we have 2 different themes which we can use in this Orb Producer Suite. But let's delete this one and continue on talking about the interface here. So at the top we have the DAW sync. If you don't have this activated, even if you play your DAW, even if you play the DAW, the plugin won't sync up and play in time with your project. So you really have to activate this DAW sync, and then if we go back here to the beginning, it will start to play with your project. So that's the kind of foundation. And here we have the MIDI tab, and that is for this the Orb chords and the Orb's master section. Then we have also a synthesizer. So in all of these plugins you have wavetable synthesizers integrated within the plugin. So even if you don't have these extra plugins like Serum, Zebra or Omnisphere or whatever favorite synths you like to use, you can still utilize the internal wavetable synthesis within the Orb Producer Suite. And it's a quite capable synth. You have 2 wavetable oscillators, which you can do the regular wave scanning. And you have the filters. You have an amp section, this modulator section, envelopes, and 2 LFOs. And this powerful modulation matrix to do your specific routings. And at the bottom here we have a delay, reverb, and some saturation like drive. And the note glide. And you can also utilize the randomizer here if you want to come up with more original sounds. But the Orb Producer Suite ships with a bunch of presets, so you can just browse around here and find a specific preset for your melodic phrase. So let's go back to the MIDI tab here and look at our first example. And I will actually load up the Orb arpeggiator here, because we have a quite interesting arpeggio going on here. And I am using the internal synth engine of Orb Producer to generate this, the sounds of this of this MIDI. But if you want to use a synth after this, the ORB producer, you can always just turn off the internal synth engine of ORB producer and add some other synthesizer after. So you can basically add your own synths after ORB producer. But in this example, we will use the internal synth engine of ORB producer. So let's activate that again and listen back to this arpeggio. So this is basically an AI-generated little music piece or pattern. While it might seem complex to use an AI tool, it's really basic to use the ORB producer because it's a quite nice and intuitive interface here for generating our AI melodies. So we have density, which is the amount of notes. So if we increase the density here, you can see that we get more notes in our AI-generated melody. And if we lower the density, we will of course have less notes. And we can also utilize the complexity knob here to introduce more complex patterns. So let's introduce the density here, increase the density, and also increase the complexity. And you can also see that we can change octave in this arpeggio, and we can select the syncopation and how much of human touch you want to introduce into this melody. And the human touch will actually drift the notes a little bit in the grid, so they will not be perfectly in time, but more with a human feel. And you can also introduce more polyphony. But for this arpeggio, I like to keep it quite simple, but maybe for the chords we can have a lot more polyphony. So let's drag that down. And the silence here is basically gating, so you can select how long or short these notes will be. Or the silence between the notes. You see, if I keep it at 0, we will have some of these notes being quite long, or a little bit longer. But if we introduce the silence here, we will only create short notes. Okay, so let's go back here and look at the ORB master section. And in this master section, we can obviously select the different chords we want to utilize in our song. And for this auto-generated piece, we have C minor, G minor, A flat, and F minor. But you can of course select one of these and change the chord. And you can also, of course, randomize all these parameters within the plugin just by pressing this. Randomize all parameters for all ORB plugins, which will generate a brand new idea for you. So that's a quick example of using just the bass and the melody here in combination. But let's see if we can swap out the melodic instrument and the synth preset within the melody generator here. So let's go in here and select another sound preset. Yeah, so you can have really fun with these synthesizers, which is quite capable within the Orb Producer suite. So not only do you get this AI tool for generating your ideas, but you also get this integrated synthesizer. So let's go back to the MIDI tab here again, and let's see if we can add a second part to this, because now we have one theme here generated. And we want to have a second theme, so we just press the plus sign here, and we will have a new theme generated for us. Okay, so let's go in here and see what kind of chord progressions we can use if we want to generate a new idea ourselves here. So we go into the chord progression tab within this Orb Master section. And yeah, we can be in the Orb Arpeggiator plugin here. You can see we have melancholic category of different chord progressions. We have excited chord progressions, uplifting, epic, inspirational. Let's see if we can find something epic. And maybe select this one. Looks nice. And now I feel that the chords maybe should be a bit more rapid. They are kind of slow at the moment, so we can go ahead here and go to the chords plugin and introduce a little bit more density on this plugin. And you will see that we will have more notes. So let's go ahead and introduce the melody to this little epic piece. So you can see it's quite fun to actually change these settings in real time. Here I was changing the complexity, and we get a totally different feel to the melody. And yeah, we can get inspired by this plugin to our writing process. Okay, so now I think that we have a decent idea here. So let's go ahead and swap out the bass and see if we can find a bass which suits this piece a little bit more. So let's go ahead here and go into the bass, open up the plugin, and swap out the preset. Right, so in conclusion, I think that the Orb Producer Suite is an excellent tool for helping us to generate and spark a creative flow and generate these kind of nice melodic patterns and sequences. And while this is targeting electronic music producers, I think that the plugins can be used for any type of music basically. And it's really helpful that the developers chose to integrate wavetable synthesizers within the plugins, so we don't have to use external synthesizers for generating sound from this, from the MIDI that's generated in Orb Producer. Okay, so that's all for this little showcase video about the Orb Producer Suite. If you have any questions about the Orb Producer, please let me know in the comment section below. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell so that you can notice when I have new videos. My name is Mattias and see you in the next video. Bye!